What's up, people? How's it going? My name is Bharat, and I'm going to be probably your friend today. We're going to be having so much fun building an Flutter application from scratch. Uh, Let me give a couple of minutes for everybody to join, probably so that we can just wait for everybody to join and get started. This is going to be a fun session. We're going to be having about an hour to hour and 15 minutes of writing code. And along the way, also going to be building a lot of stuff. You're going to be looking into creating an Flutter application, which is basically a mobile slash desktop slash whatever you want to call it. It's actually a simple framework designed by Google, and we're going to be getting started with it in about 2 minutes of time. This class is probably going to be full hands-on. We're going to be having a lot of we're going to understand a lot of things along the way. And what importantly you will need for this one is to have a simple computer. uh, I have given few description. I've given a few links in the description, prerequisites as to download Visual Studio Code if you want to build it locally. If you are probably planning on just attending this class in particular, if you want to get a taste of how this entire Flutter is going to be, you don't need to have anything locally built. There is already a way to do it. It's obviously all you needed is have a computer connected to the internet and have a browser, and you can just I'll be giving you this link in a while. You can be hitting that link and you can start building, and you'll have your application. You can start building your application. All right, so probably let's get the ball rolling. First of all, I just would like to know if my audio is clear. If anybody who's actually live right now can just type if my audio is clear, and I'll be very happy for that. Next important thing is to check if my video is also clear. Hoping the video is clear because I can see that it's pretty much clear for now. Yeah. All right, guys. So yeah, I guess it's about 6:08 now. We have 8 minutes past the scheduled live. Let's get the ball rolling. What I would like to share and even begin with is to have probably give you guys a little bit of understanding of what we are going to be doing. And the Flutter in 1 hour is actually a very famous one. I've actually written a lot about this in my basically I have my own blog and stuff. You can just check it out, and I've written about it in detail in that blog. And what I actually also would like to point out is that Flutter is not something very complex. You don't have to worry about it being very complex. In the first step, what we're going to understand is how the Flutter is behaving and what exactly does it do. Uh, the complex and the historical applications that you have seen so far, application development languages we have seen like Android, you have Swift for iOS, and we have C Sharp. You can do a lot of stuff with that. Those things are still the most important things that you need to learn. However, if you want to also know few things about cross-platform development languages, meaning you just have to understand about one framework. If you use that framework, you can build for iOS, you can build for Android. Those are called as cross-platform development languages. So not specifically languages, it can be framework, it can be library. There are a lot of vast examples about it. One famous one is the React JS. You have React Native equivalent for the mobile platform, and all of those things have been there for so long time. But what Flutter does very, very nicely is that it gives you a very simple way of building stuff. If you want to build a mobile application, you don't need to understand a ton and ton information about how the Android lifecycle begins and how it ends and all of those sorts. We need to have a plug and play way of building beautiful applications. So this Flutter is actually a UI framework, or the UI toolkit does that for us. If you see here to the right, I have a simple image also that is actually an image that I took from an example application. So what you can see to the right is a live application that could have been probably built in about 5 minutes of time. If you want to do the same in an Android, or if you want to do the same with an iOS like Swift or C Sharp, it would take at least a minimum of 3 to 4 hours to give all of these things set up and built and run. So what Flutter does, it gives you a plug and play way of doing things. If you want to build UI faster, and probably if you want to prototype things faster, you can just close your eyes and choose Flutter, because it does that for you. It gives you a very simple way of doing it. We're going to be building this specific. We're also going to be doing a lot of things in this video. In this class, I'll just show you guys as we go along. But to the right, if you see that, everything that you see on the right is actually a simple Lego block. That's what I've written here. If you want to use simple widgets, that's pre-built by Flutter. And importantly, Flutter is actually a framework that is built on top of a programming language called Dart. Dart has been there in the mix for a long time. It's about 12 to 13 years the Dart has been built. It was actually built initially as an equivalent for JavaScript. They wanted to overtake the market in the JavaScript region, but they could not do that primarily because there were a lot of people who had already started using JavaScript. But the Dart programming language is actually very, very easy to write because of its ability to give something called the declarative style of writing. You'll actually be seeing about it. Let me quickly take my pen. All right. All right. Hopefully, yeah. This is my pen. All right. So first thing is that the declarative style is very simple. We're going to be seeing that obviously. And second, importantly, for if you want to build applications with Flutter, you don't necessarily need to know about Dart. Or in my experience, I've been writing Flutter applications for more than 2 years, ever since it was actually in beta even. I've been like practicing and I've been just doing stuff and things like that. So in my experience, if you really want to build very complex applications, you want to like dig deep and understand everything that is there to Flutter, then probably you can go ahead and start understanding about Dart. But if before that, you don't necessarily need to know a lot about Dart. And Dart as such is actually very simple to write. It has a very similar syntax to Java, JavaScript, Python. Anything that you have, the popular programming language is actually an amalgamation of that. Let me find it in the draw. All right. So, like I've been saying, the Dart actually is a amalgamation of basically all the programming syntaxes that you see. You have a Java type declaration of void main, and this is actually a very famous void main is like the breadth of an programming language. As soon as you see void main, you know that it's actually a very simple one, right? Yeah, so void main is very famous in Java, so they took it and they also had declarative style of writing, meaning that you don't have to necessarily always have things created, objects created, flying here and there, and all of that things confuse you. So that's pretty much how everything started. So let me move it back here, move it back here, move it back here. Okay. So that's pretty much how Dart got started. And if you want to build Flutter applications, the important thing to note here is that it's possible, and you have to write just one bunch of code just for once, and you will be applying this code across multiple frameworks. I mean, across multiple OSs. You write one simple Flutter code, and it'll run in iOS as an application. To the example, right, I've seen an iOS application. Same application will run for Android. Same application will run for Mac and even Windows. All of those things are taken care of by Flutter itself, and it's actually an amazing framework, to be honest. And it's actually gone through a lot of iterative cycles over the last 2 years to achieve this space. All right, moving on. What do we really need to know, and what is this class is going to give you guys? So this class, like I said, it's going to be a hands-on class. You're going to start writing code pretty much from the start. And what this class is going to do is that you're going to be building something as a simple application, like a Tinder application. And I know like a lot of you guys out there would like to know how to do it. Tinder is a very simple application, right? You have like an image, you left and right swipe it, and when you just click a button, it's going to say that you are a match to that person or not. So it's basically a simple application. It's like you can think of it as a image swiper left and right. That's going to be the crux of the application. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let me check if there is any. Okay, so far, yeah, hope this class is going fine. If you guys have any questions, do not forget to drop it out. So I'll just be checking the questions here and there, and I'll be answering and trying to answer as much as possible. All right, so like I've been saying, we're going to be doing this Tinder app for this one. We're going to be understanding about it primarily starting from what is Flutter and how is it created and things like that. From that stage, we're going to be doing or creating a Tinder app towards the end of this session. So that's what we're going to be trying to do. The next one, like I said, is that it's going to be hands-on. So do not forget to have your computer and things set up. And finally, we're also going to be building. If you want to download and build, I would highly recommend you guys to get started with the Visual Studio Code setup as well as the SDK for Flutter. Now, if you guys are like, what is he talking about? I don't even know what is he talking about. Visual Studio Code is like in building an IDE, which is like an integrated development environment for local building. If you really want to go and start with that, I would be very happy if you get started with that. But even if you don't, you think like I'm just going to try for now what is happening on the UI. I'll just give you like a browser link in a minute now, and you can get started. All right, so now time to check and understand about declarative style. Declarative style is like an interesting one that is pretty much new for the whole understanding. It's actually pretty new for like the world of programming. World we have seen bunch of declarative programming languages, declarative programming styles over multiple languages. One of the few popular one is like you can consider Rust as a few popular one. There's Golang that is coming into picture, and Dart has been there for more than 12 to 13 years, and it's actually doing a good job about it as well. So what is actually declarative style of programming? I'm just going to show you guys here. Okay, so this is basically my trackpad. All right, so what exactly is declarative style programming? So we would like to know what it does and how you do it, and obviously you'll also need to know what actually makes it, right? Let me quickly bring it into picture for you guys. All right. All right, so this is what I'm going to be doing. So for a declarative style of programming, there's a couple of things that you need to know. The first thing that you need to know is to understand how the declarative style of programming even comes into picture. The first thing that comes into your mind when you talk about programming languages is something called as object. Everything is an object in a programming language. You have something called as a class. Okay, I'll take this one, I guess. Yeah, classes are there, and you have objects, and you just like keep on playing around with it, and at the end of the day you'll be like, okay, I have a class, I am going to create an object, and pretty much that's the so-called traditional programming language. This is called as imperative style programming, meaning that you need to explicitly tell the computer every single time, just do this, do this, do this. Well, in case you want to build something faster, that's where your declarative style of programming comes into picture. You don't always go out and say, let's say for example, if you take example of Java, right? Java has this very good example where you say a is equal to uh, probably let's say I want to create a class object for class A. You will do this class A, and there's an example for B, and you will say class B, and you will only be able to access the data inside class A by doing something like a dot do. Similarly for B, you will say b dot do. Only after you have an object of class A will you be able to access its elements. You will be able to do something like that. Let's assuming that it's a non-static member. All right. So in case you want to build something faster, this is actually also a drawback when it comes to building things faster. When you want to build things faster, there's obviously this overhead of always having to build, always having to write and create objects everywhere. So what they did was they wanted to have a different style of writing itself. As a developer, I don't care what exactly is the class behind it. I don't exactly care about the object that I need to create. I want a programming language to automatically do it for me. So that's when they decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about there being an object created. I'm just going to say, for example, class A. I'm going to just say open brackets, close brackets, probably. Right. So this one is probably this. And we're going to have this. Yeah. I'm just going to say something like this. Open brackets, close brackets, and in between these open brackets and close brackets, I'm just going to define whatever I want to define. Let me quickly check here. Okay. I'm just going to say firstly, awesome. So I'm just going to say, how about I have the variable for do. Do will be like my message. and the username will be there, and I can say my ID. Just this alone probably is enough for me to say build this entire stuff. And that's pretty much how all of this came into picture. Like how the declarative style of programming comes into picture is like you just have to understand. You don't have to always create objects. You don't have to necessarily say this is the object I want. Have this object only, then I can do everything and anything. And that's pretty much what the declarative style of programming does. One more important point that you also I would like to make here is that when you are thinking about declarative style of programming, Flutter in particular has a bunch of widgets, or think of them as classes. Let's say there's a text as a widget. You will just say text and you will put your data inside it. You can say the value is something, and you will say color. Automatically it'll set the color, and you'll say the position, where should I keep it. You will set the position, in automatically set the position, and all of this becomes a part of Flutter itself. Like there is nothing much that you need to worry about here at this point of time. And that's pretty much what we're going to be seeing in the next slide. So we're going to be seeing into how this entire stuff works, probably, and we'll just be understanding how we are going to be using this as well. All right, let me open my other slide up. Awesome. So declarative style, like I said, is a very simple one. You need not worry about objects, and you just need to do your own stuff. I'll show you guys an example of declarative style of programming, even before we go into building stuff or understanding about the life cycle, because I'm going to be opening a link here. I'm just going to put this link in the, probably after this class ends, I'll put it in the comments. If you want, I'm going to also be putting it in the chat in a moment time. All right, so this is the one that I wanted to share. So if you see here, this is pretty much a simple, basically you can consider this a simple notepad. It's actually an online notepad, which is called as Dartpad. And we're going to be using this Dartpad only for our application development in a moment time. And if you see Dartpad here, the declarative style is actually very evident. There is no need for creating objects. If you want to open a simple one, you can still open it. I may open another sample to show you guys how the declarative style works. As you can see, pretty much everything that is actually present here is, there is not much of object creation going around. You can still easily access the data about that by just passing what values you need inside it. And like I say, you see it immediately, it looks very similar to Java, and at the same time it looks similar to Python. Like what exactly is happening here? And you don't necessarily need to know any of this. You just need to understand what a class does. In basics, if you know basics of OOPS, you'll be able to get through it. All right, so I think I'm taking so much time, and I won't really get started in a moment's time. We'll have to know what declarative style of programming is, and that's why I want to show this quickly. We'll now move to the next slide, and the next slide is pretty much where we're going to be understanding about the life cycle of an application. And the life cycle of an application is very important, primarily because we need to know what we are actually going to deal with Flutter. All right, so the first forever, at least in the medical space that we are in right now, this person is going to die. And if you see any programming language, if you see any kind of programming paradigm, everything is based or loosely or closely related to what we as humans do. And that's why they created a life cycle of an app. So if you take any application in the programming space, web app, Android app, anything, there's going to be something called as a birth, which is going to be the entrance for an application, and there is going to be something called as a death, or something where the application is exiting the main screen. And this pretty much is actually defined via this simple table that is actually present. This is actually another famous one, where you understand how an action gets created, or how an app gets created, and how it's going to get destroyed when it's getting shutting down. So again, we'll just go quickly understand what exactly happens when you are going to be working on this. Alright, so I'm going to quickly move this. We will need to understand probably this one. Alright. Alright, so again, my guy here is going to be understanding, or I'm just going to be showing you how the app lifecycle for Flutter works. The Flutter app lifecycle is pretty much like goes like this. You have an entrance to an application, and you're going to be writing code in another 2 minutes of time. So I would highly recommend you guys to just have this one, or clearly watch this one. Let me check. All right. Okay, this is pretty much what I wanted to show. So there's going to be like an entrance to an application. The entrance to an application is via a main method. The main is actually going to be like an entrance point. It's like a gate. Only if you go to this main method, you are officially entering your Flutter application. Once you enter the main method, there is going to be a bunch of things present here. First thing that's going to be present is like actually a block of widget. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can consider them as blocks that's going to be present, and each block has its own life cycle. This could be like this is going to be like having, it's going to die in about 5 minutes. This could die in about 10 minutes. This could be dead in about 1 minute. It has its own life cycle. Everything works on by itself, but put together, that's where our application is running. Now think of this as like a two pages screen. There's one screen 1 and there's a screen 2. And what happens is that when you are entering, you tell where you want to enter. You're just saying, I'm going to enter via the screen 1. And then once the screen 1 gets kicked in, let's say that you have like a simple bar on top of here, and there's like a button that's present here. There's an image that you're going to show. Everything starts kicking in. And now you're saying, I want to move to screen 2. When you click this button, I want to move to screen 2. When you click the screen 2, all of this gets destroyed. And what is happening between that is actually the life cycle. And we do not know much about, or you don't need to know much about how these things are getting created, how these are getting destroyed. But at the core, there are only few methods that you need to know. One is obviously the main method where you go and enter, and one more is the on create method, which is actually a very famous method inside your Android application, and on destroy. Anything that is between that is going to be what you see in your application. Mostly what happens is that applications kind of crash and things like that happens because there's some disturbance between the on create and on destroy, and it kind of exits the on destroy immediately. So I'll go back and show you my previous screen, pretty much what I wanted to have you see this. Yep. Main. All right. So this is where our main method is going to be shown. When you are actually entering, you are entering by the main method, and on create gets started, on start gets fired, on resume gets fired. Now that's actually how your Android application lifecycle is. There is a similar lifecycle for iOS as well, so don't have to worry much about it. Next thing what happens is that you have an activity running. This activity, you can think of it as your first screen. You're saying, I want to have this first screen running. And suddenly you're saying, I want to move to screen 2. What happens is it goes via on pause, and then it goes back to on resume and fires your screen 2. It's actually going between that only. Suddenly what happens, you're saying, okay, I want to close this application. It quickly goes to on stop. From on stop, it gets to on destroy, and your application shut down. Everything that is happening between this is what we are going to try to learn in the next 20-30 minutes. All right, we'll go to the next slide. Finally, we are at the space where you're going to be finally writing some code, and hopefully you guys actually have, yes, Ayush Pandey. Which space do you want me to, I mean, like, I don't understand. Zoom in as to what? You want me to zoom into the PPT, or you want me to zoom into the code? Just drop a comment. I'll be able to do that. Ayush Pandey says, as Android developer, I want to make my own API. Should there be any way to make an API without Node, PHP, like an easy way? Yes, so I actually have another class similar to this on the Unacademy. It's a free class. You can definitely check it out. I'm zooming into the PPT. Hopefully, you guys can see much better now. For answering Ayush's question, so if you really want to create faster APIs, you can just take a look into Fast API. The name itself suggests that you can create faster APIs. So that's pretty much like what is going to be like the standard in the upcoming years, because of moving towards faster and faster APIs. And I would highly recommend you to check it out. You can create your REST APIs much faster. Alright, so I've zoomed in a bit. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, if you can't, you can just drop like another comment. I'll be able to answer. Also, again, we're gonna get moving on. We're gonna get started. We're gonna be looking into probably understanding what is wide main and how do you create that. And finally, we're also going to look into the run app method. Right, let me. Okay, this is pretty much why I'm gonna write code. I'll zoom into this as well for now. And yeah, this is the console. Um, okay, I hope this you guys can see this much better. All right, so go to this page. You can open dartpad.dev. I'll drop this here. I'll also be dropping the comment for this after this class ends in the comment section below. So what happens is that when you go to this, you'll automatically be taken into a simple open one, and it'll be open like a new pad you can open and you can do all of that sort. But for this one, we're going to be going to the sample section here and opening something like a counter as an example. If you open counter, there's a bunch of code that is present here. Just remove everything, keep it clean, and that's what we're going to be learning, like how do you write the bunch of code that comes into picture. So let me zoom in more. All right, again, this is much better, I think, hopefully. If it's not, if you're not able to see, just drop a comment again. I'll be very happy to make sure that fits your or you guys are able to see. All right, so first thing we're going to do is to understand what is the first import statement that we need. The first import statement that we need to have, like we need to have a bunch of stuff created. And like I said, we're going to be understanding only two methods here. The first method is called as wide main method. Followed by that, you're going to be having the run app method. Let me quickly fix this up. All right, the first import statement that you need to write is just say import, open single quotes, close single quotes, and you would say package Flutter / material dot dot. This is going to be like a basic import statement. Everything that you do right as part of this, it will actually get used. Everything that you want to build for this class is going to be inside our material dot dot file. And one more important thing, every file inside Flutter is going to get created as a dart file. So a dart file is mixture of that, like I said, combination of that builds your Flutter. All right, so we have completed writing our first import statement. As soon as you put this, it says that it's an unused import and you don't want an unused import. What next you're going to do is to build our first method, or we're just going to build our main method. This is where the application is going to enter in. We are going to have like an entrance. I showed you guys a simple drawing few minutes ago. There has to be an entry point for the application, and that entry point is going to be wide main. This is a very simple, again, usually used notational callback, or you can call it as a syntax. And wide main means that we're going to define a very simple method called as main, and only if the method name is main, it will automatically fix that, understand that, enter. And the void is here actually called as a return statement, or it actually going to define what is the return type of this method, and it's actually void, which means nothing. This is not going to return anything. All right, so void main is created, and as soon as you get your material dart, you can actually now run a method called as a run app. Just run app, and you'll just open and close it and just leave it. And when you do that, it'll say that it will say positional arguments expected but zero found. This error means that we are going to be building, it's actually expecting something but nothing is actually present. And I'm going to show you guys what we need to enter into this specifically, and that's pretty much how we are going to be getting into writing our Flutter application. Okay, so run app is done. We have a void main, we have run app. Only if these two methods are there, our application will even begin. So make sure to do that. And let's move on. We're gonna look into another slide quickly now and understand what's the next step. Hopefully you guys have written these 4 lines of code. Just keep it at this and we'll just move on. All right. Back to our king of yeah. Okay. Let me quickly check if you guys have any questions. Okay, no questions yet. Okay. Yep. All right. Now is going to be the game-changing understanding of what is a widget. Like I said few minutes ago, we're going to be looking into declarative style of programming. Declarative style of programming means write a class, put some data inside it, boom, our application is created. But what exactly is a widget? We need to give it some names, right? So now widgets are basically a very simple building block. Building blocks are nothing but basic way of understanding how we are going to write code. Now let me quickly create another one. All right. So hmm. What happens is that if you are building or if you're playing with something called a Lego, I'm sure most of you guys know, Legos are basically the ways to build. What is why it is not buying? Okay, Legos, right? You guys might have played with Legos. These are also called building blocks. You have bunch of stuff here. You have a board in the bottom, and you just have bunch of stuff inside it, and you just keep placing one thing on top of it and another. And that's how you're going to be building having a play with Lego block. And there's something similar to this, and that's how basically Flutter also tries to do stuff. Means that it just gives the user or the developer it's primarily developer focused. It wants you to build faster applications. So what it does is that it gives you bunch of building blocks, and these building blocks are like basically simple stuff. It could be a class A, it could be a class B, and you can even consider this as a text. Every single thing that you see on the screen, text, image, and everything is actually considered as a building block. And the building blocks are then placed on top of a layout, and voila, our application is created. Now you can understand that building blocks just can be placed by any means, but there are few basic restrictions to it. Let's say that this is going to be my base board, and I'm just going to put my let's say this is an image. I'm going to put my image first on the top of the screen. Followed by that, I just want to put some text on top of the screen again. I'll just say go back here, go stay here. The third one that I'm going to say is to actually have to put this, like say I'm going to try to put a scroll bar. I'm going to put the scroll bar also on the third space, and I'm actually trying to put building blocks one after another and trying to create my own application. Now, similarly, how the Flutter also works. And like I said, there are few restrictions that also you need to understand. Not a lot or not a big restriction or anything of that sort. Even when you're playing with your Lego blocks, you do know that you cannot always go and build things. You will have to place things that are actually going to be possible or will have a bottom. Without a bottom, you will not be able to place something on top of it. And that's pretty much what are also going to be doing. If only there is an understandable layout that is below it, only then you can keep a widget on top of it. There is no building block, there is no base at all, you cannot put anything on top of it. And that's why we're going to be understanding, or we're going to look into what is a widget. And this whole thing, when you are trying to look at it, every single data that you're going to see, text is a widget, an image is a widget. If you want to have a video player, it's also another widget. And that's how you are going to be building one after another, and trying to put it all into one box, and voila, you're done, your application is created. And it's actually very, very developer centric, meaning that you don't have to always think, okay, I need to create an object for this, I need to create an object for that. Nothing like that. Just put one below the another. You have like a tree structure at the end of the day, and boom, you're done. You have your widgets arranged on in some fashion, and your application is created. All right, if you're going to talk about widgets, there is nothing that you cannot do, because you need to understand the two types of widgets that are present. There are two types of important widgets. There's actually this, you can consider this a class of widgets, and the two important types of widgets is that one is called as a stateless widget, and just as the name suggests, it's something which means that it does not care about state. It will just probably be like, I don't want to know, or I don't want to understand about state. And the stateless widget is basically that. It says that a component that does not hold any information about the application. It could be like a simple static text. Let's say, for example, you have a text like that is like usually you will see right at the end of an very big page, you will have something like this. This is common. This comment is actually a very static text. This is not going to always change. The comment bar is going to be there every single time. And there's another button called as notes here. This notes button is also not going to change. It's always going to be there. And these are called as static text, and this is not going to change all the time. And if you think that this text is not going to change, this data is not going to change, you put it under a stateless widget. And that's pretty much what the stateless widgets do. Just act as a holding block till you figure out what you want to do. And one more importantly, you need to notice that the stateless widget, even though they occupy some memory, they don't actually have to always get created. They just once created, always stay there. That's pretty much what the stateless widgets do. Okay, so one more important thing again with stateless widgets that they don't care about what happened previously. Let's say that you have like a simple cricket score application. If you want to say you count from 0 to 6 balls as 1 over, and the next over you want to again count from 0 to 6. I want you to do something like this on a text. And what happens is that the text widget or whatever you want to store it as, that widget will not care about what the previous data was. If it is 0, I don't care. If it is 1, I don't care. It will just keep on moving. If you want to do something like that, you cannot do it with a stateless widget because the data is continuously changing, right? If the data is going to change, then you shouldn't use a stateless widget. Only if the data is not going to change, let's say that you are actually trying to say that what is the game name? The game is between India versus Australia. The game is between India versus Australia is not going to change unless the game is completed, unless there is another game that is getting played. If that is the case, this text is going to say the same for the entire application, and that means that this is going to be acting as a stateless widget. And that's what is actually very important to understand. If there is going to be some data that is going to be moved inside that same widget itself, you should not use a stateless widget. All right, one is stateless widget, and I've told you or very clearly showed what exactly or why exactly you need to use a stateless widget for. Where is my mouse? Okay, here is my mouse. The next one is actually the stateful widget. Now, stateful widgets, again, you should have guessed it by now. If you don't want something to be static, if you want something to be dynamic, then you use a stateful widget. Now, stateful widgets are going to be playing a very important role in our Flutter application that we're going to create in this video. So basically what you will do is stateful widgets are for changing data continuously. Usually you will have a database that is data is going to continuously come in, or if you want to get a cricket live tracker, this data is continuously going to change. The score is going to change, the balls are going to change, the commentary section will change, people will say one thing after another, and all of these are going to continuously change. And this, if there is an application that you're going to create that is similar to this, then you need to have a stateful widget. That's going to be two type of widgets, and these two types of widgets are just classifications, necessarily not the same widget. You can even use a text which is going to be a widget as a stateless. If you want to use a text as a stateful, you can still use them as a stateful widget. I'll show you guys few available widgets, and you will be probably understanding that as soon as you see that. All right, I'm going to be writing. Before writing, I just want to quickly show you guys what exactly I mean by stateful and stateless. Let me open a link here. That should be pretty much here, I guess, after this. Yeah, this wiki. So if you go into this wiki, I'm just bringing it into screen for you guys to see. All right, so this is going to be the widget catalog that the Flutter gives us. You will see, you can very clearly see that it gives a bunch of sections. These are called as catalog because you can bring it under some type, and you can actually group them under some type. You see, the first one is accessibility. Accessibility is pretty much when you want to have screen reader, if you want to do things like that, that comes under accessibility. Then animation and motion, even that is actually, even a single animation that you're trying to do is still a widget. and assets, images, and icons that also can be considered as a widget. There's a basic widget, there's an input widget, and input sections, meaning if you want to type some data, if you want to get user input, that's also a widget. Interaction models, layouts could be grids, like shown here, rows and columns and things like that, that can also be widget. So if you see here, I've dropped a link for this as well in the comment section. So if you see that, you'll understand that every single action that you do can be grouped as a widget and it can be used inside a Flutter application. All right, so now time to run our application. And even before running our application, you need to understand what a stateful widget and what a stateless widget is, and how we are going to be writing that in our Flutter application. So hopefully you guys can see this. Let me check once quickly. Yes, you guys can see this. So what happens is that when you are this 5 lines of code that we wrote in about 5-10 minutes ago, we wrote this. Anyway, the main method is where it enters, and run app is what gets called. And what inside run app we need to do is we need to say what is the type of application. So this class called as material app that you need to create. Only if you create this material app, the run app will get fired. Now I'll just try to give you guys a very simple understanding of what this material app does by in another 1 minute. Now inside your material app, you can just say the title. What is the title that you want to have this application as? I'm just going to say my first app, and followed by that, I'm just going to say probably my theme, and I need to say the theme data for it. Now, if you are actually getting confused as to what I'm actually doing, just quickly wait and I'll show you guys what happens. All right, this is done and pretty much over. If you run this application, this will not run. So what I'm guessing. All right, so what happens is that if you see, there's a simple debug, small debug banner. It's actually showing you an empty application. And this is actually a widget. Now this is going to be your base widget, and this is going to basically like set up your application for you. And this application is going to be going through our class, and this class is actually declaratively styled class. So when you have this class, you can now give something like this. You can say what is the key. The key is my first app. The key is title, and you guys saying my first app. What is the theme for that next? The theme is going to be something of type theme data, and is having the color as blue. And similarly, the next important attribute that you're going to have is what is the home that has to be fired. Now, if you give a home, what will happen? Like again, as I told you, everything is going to be a building block. The run app is the base building block. Inside that, you're going and you're creating a material app, and inside that, you're going and you're going to create your home screen for you. And this home screen can either be a stateful widget or a stateless widget. Awesome, right? Now time to define our first stateless widget to just see how everything works. And once you are inside the void main specific static functions, just don't go inside it. Next we're going to write is a simple stateless widget. You have to be knowing a little bit of understanding of oops concept, oops related programming. That's pretty much enough. So let me create a class called as sample class or sample app. I'm just going to say extends stateless widget. Now what does extends mean? Now extends means is that it's actually inheriting a stateless widget. I'm inheriting a stateless widget and giving it a name as sample app. And the sample app is what is now going to define everything that it needs to know. If you go and you see here, it says that missing concrete implementation of stateless.build. Now, what is extends to does is that it tries to pull whatever is the main method that's required for building this stateless widget. And it says that it's missing a concrete building method. So in order to write the build method, you just say override and you define your build. If you're actually following me up on a Visual Studio Code, all you need to type is just this. and hit enter, and it'll create a stateful widget for you. And if you type stateless, it'll automatically create a stateless class for you. It'll automatically do that for you. But since we are not having or using like not running it locally, I cannot show you that auto completion for you. You don't necessarily need to know what is this and why am I doing this and why am I doing overriding and stuff like that. Basically what I'm trying to do is getting a stateless widget and using the stateless widget as an extension for my sample app, creating the sample app. And once the override is done, I'm just saying use the build method, and I'm going to be building whatever inside it. And the next step that I'm going to do is I'm just going to say text. It says that one position argument is required. I just put, all right, let's say hello. All right, so what exactly have we done? Just done a build, written text and things like that. Anyway, so this is actually how you're going to write your stateless widget. I'm just like doing stuff here without actually pretending much to more. Right. All right, yeah, the status widget created, but you have not given it an entry point yet. Like I said, say the home sample app off. Just give it an entry point. The entry point is the home, and the home attribute, whatever you give the name of the stateless widget, it will try to run. I'll just run it again for you guys to see how the hello works. Voila, you see here hello is present in big block letters, and it's also like having a weird color. And why happens is that we have not still given any layout yet. We are just saying the material app is like the base layer, and on top of that we're just saying the home is going to be just the text, which is not actually accepted. What needs to be home is actually an layout itself, probably something called as a scaffold, or box layout, grid layout. Layouts can only be a part of home. That's also another important point. I'll try to zoom into this code so you guys can see it much more clearly. Pretty much, yeah, this is what I wanted written. So this is an example of a stateless widget. This is how you create a stateless widget. And similarly, we're going to now do something called as a stateful widget. And stateful widgets are again going to do the same thing. I'm not going to do much here. I'm just going to, instead of having the sample app extend stateless widget, I'm just going to extend the stateful widget. All right, and if you see here, when you're extending a stateful widget, it will again throw an error. What error does it throw? It will say that you need to have a create state you need to say that I need to create state. Now this is actually another important point that we need to discuss. Let me open up this page right here. Hi Yash, I'm not sure what I actually didn't catch this question. I'm just not seeing the question. Help me, I'm struggling for a day. I can't. Android Studio just ignore docs, don't know why. What exactly do you like? I'm not able to understand what the ignore docs is. Closure call. I mean, I don't know what. Suddenly you're typing something into this. Hmm. I'll be very happy to answer this question, but I actually would like to give or understand a better context. What exactly you're trying to do and what is the error that is coming? Closure call with mismatched arguments. Function, receiver closure, map. What language is this, man? I'm really not sure. Can you just put it on a paste bin or something like that and drop a link? I'll help you with it in a minute time. Because I'm just going to continue with this. Few more slides are there. We have another 15 to 20 minutes only. I'm trying to build a Tinder application, guys. Come on, just be fun, right? Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Drop the question. I mean, drop it in a pastebin link. Go to find pastebin.com, put that code there, and drop it here. I'll definitely help you out. All right. So what I'm trying to do is what widgets are available. I showed you that catalog, And yeah, before coming to Mamma Mia as the stateful, so we're going to understand how to build the stateful widget. The stateful widgets are, again, like I said, you need to hold some data to it. And in order to hold some data, we need to have a couple of things created. One is the build method itself. Obviously, we have the build method, but on top of that build method, we also have to have some state being present. So you can just say sample class is there, you just do it, and it will not work that way. You need to have or give it some state, and only if you give some state, it will be able to do it. All right, let me pull up. All right, so this is sample app, and it just throws an error. So we'll remove the build method for now, and I'm going to quickly write some overriding code here. The overriding code is that it's very simply going to be doing something like this: sample app of key. The key is going to be a key, and we're just going to do is a super of key. What we have done is we just then quickly said that I'm pretty much doing can't have a value of none. I definitely know that. Keys of key, super key, and we are going to close this one. So we have done is we have created a stateful widget. We have given done a super call, and we just said we have inheriting everything. And the next step we're going to do is to obviously create another class, because the classes needs to hold a state, and this will automatically be created if you are actually going to hold or do something in your Visual Studio Code, like I said, and it extends state of our sample app. It keeps saying that it's missing the sample, it's missing the create state method, it's missing the build method and all of that. So let me quickly build and show you guys something. Flutter stateful widget. Yes, stateful widget class. There's a very interesting information that is present here that you can definitely take a look into. And I'm going to just build or pull this build from here, and I'm going to drop this build right here. Override. I'm just going to say sample app state is going to be the create state present here, and we just say sample app state off. I'm just going to say return it, guys, return it. All right, so we have the state created, that is also done. This is where you're going to write your override. Let's say override widget build. I have the build context, have the context, and have the return statement, return a text. Hello, it's going to be the text, and also close this. Awesome. So it does take some time to build because we have to write everything from scratch in this IDE, which is an online IDE. So run it again, it will have the same effect. It will not have anything else. It will have the same effect on this application as well. That's primarily because what I've done is we have built a stateful widget, and this is the template for building a stateful widget. You don't have to always memorize stuff. Like I said, just go to your Visual Studio Code or Android Studio, just put STFUL, hit enter, it'll automatically auto complete it for you. So what you've done is nothing complex. You just inherited the stateful widget into a class name called a sample app, and after doing all the super call on top of it, you've created another local class or the private class called a sample app state. And what happens is that every time you are going to make some changes, the sample app state is going to get fired up again and again. And that's the difference between a stateless widget and a stateful widget. And we're going to be primarily using a stateful widget for the rest of this application. And I'm just going to show you guys how the Tinder application is going to come along nicely when you're going to do that. All right, let me open up my, yes. All right, so let's move on. We actually looked into the what widgets are available on the widget catalog, and the next one is the scaffold. The scaffold is going to be like your mama mia of application. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to just tell you guys, scaffold is like the most coolest widget that you can find in Flutter. It gives you access to everything. It is like the it's like the simplest widget that actually gives you a top bar, meaning that the you can put a top bar, you can put your own body inside it, you can create anything, column, rows, and things, stuff like that, and also gives you a floating action bar, which is also a simple button on the side that actually does what you can just click on it, you can play with it, and things like that can also happen. So I'm just going to go back to the code here, and we're just going to be playing around with some writing some code, and we'll be able to understand how this scaffold works. All right. All right, well, I've completed the stateful widget, and this is what is actually going to be the home of this application. What it is, just say if you have a simple, if you're going to be having the text as the return widget, this will happen. This should not have a text as a return widget. Instead, what it should have is a parent widget called a scaffold. The scaffold is like the coolest widget, like I said. And as soon as you drop a scaffold, it will say that if you run this application, it will give it a beautiful white background. And that's actually is an amazing thing. You can see that it is actually immediately becoming white. And there's a lot of bunch of plug and play stuff that you can do with scaffold. The first plug and play stuff you can do is create an app bar. Now, app bar is the top bar of an application where I can put a title and stuff like that. And I'm just going to quickly put my app bar. So you need to just say app bar of title. Title has to be a text. So I'm just going to say Tinder. Run this application again, and you will see that it's pretty much done. It's going to have a title, and it's going to be automatically centered, have a title as Tinder. And it's actually very simple. I didn't do much here, and this is actually a working application as well. I just set scaffold, and inside scaffold there's an option to enter app bar. So I said app bar off. I put the title is text. So basically you're creating this beautiful tree of data, and every single time you go one layer deep and deep and deep, you are actually building your own application. And next step that we're going to do is after app bar, there's a very useful parameter or key called as the body. Now body is a very cool key where you can now create any widget you want inside it. I'm just going to create something called a column widget. Column is also another useful widget, meaning that it will actually create columns one below the other, and you can put anything you want inside it. The column has another useful child called as children. Now children is nothing but an array of data or array of widgets that you can put bunch of stuff inside it as well. And I'm just going to, for now, for just showing you how it works, I'm just going to put text 1, text 2, text 3. Run this application. You can see that it's one below the other, 1, 2, and 3. This is not like we still can style it much better, but I'm just showing you guys how it has been created. And you are actually officially now creating applications. So let me quickly go back and show you guys another step on this. Now there's this important thing that you need to know, which is called as the widget tree here. This is a simple GIF I found on open source online, and you can see that this widget tree is very similar to what we are trying to build. Now I'll just quickly take my pen and show you what exactly is happening. If you see here, this is the application that we have, and the application is getting started from here. And as we go here deeper and deeper and deeper, we have the material app. Similarly, in our application, the material app, and the material app is, again, we already have the run app, and this is basically something else. So the material app is actually going, we are entering here. The material app is coming, and inside material app we have the scaffold, and the scaffold has the data 1, 2, 3. So technically we are creating a tree of data, and this tree of data is very evident, and this is how you are going to be creating an entire Flutter application. Everything is just going to be open brackets, close brackets, open brackets, close brackets. And it's a very good GIF that keeps running, where you can say that if you choose this one, where does it go? It goes, you click this one, it will automatically go here. and there's another page and opens that page. And go back here, click on the login page. This is the login page, my catalog page, my card page. So this is how you can be creating one. You're creating multiple trees. You can attach it to the main tree, which in this example is the material app, which is on top of this, which is right here. This is our material app, and we are just giving it an entry point via the sample app, which is a stateful widget in our example. Right, so this is how you're going to be creating, and I just want to quickly show this GIF and you get moving, because you're going to be writing some code for another 5-10 minutes, and we have the application right in our hands after that, and pretty much done. Any questions so far? All right, so my doubt is about Stream Builder for Firebase. If you know, kindly reply. Hi, Harsh. I'll definitely reply. Where is it? I don't see any Google Drive link. Is it in the comment section below or something like that? I can't see the Google Drive link. If it is available, just drop me or let me know. I'll be able to answer it. And if not, also just hit me up on Instagram, something like that. I'll be very happy to answer. You can find my channel out. It's actually Coder Monk. You can just find it and you can let me know what you guys really think. And if you have any questions, I'm available almost every day. A lot of people ask me a lot of questions, so hit me up there. Instagram, LinkedIn, anything available. No problem. All right, so we're going to be moving on. Like I said, you have the base here. I'm just going to open up my next one. Is going to be the all right. So this is the base layer we've created so far. We have the body, we have the column created, and we also are going to be having the scaffold as well present right here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just remove all of this, and inside the body part, I'm just going to put something like this. I'm just going to say container. I'm just going to start working on it. The container has an attribute called as child, and this child is going to be a column. It also has an attribute called as children. So you can start writing this children. Off, and you get started. The first thing I'm going to do is just say center, and the child is going to be a text. Swipe left. The next one is going to be similar. I'm just going to just copy paste this. So currently we are going to be writing the code. I'm just going to be quickly doing it so that I can explain to you guys what is really happening. The next one is swipe left and swipe right, one below the other right. So it will be one below the other button. And just for now, keep it as text. So we'll see what happens. We'll slowly improve on top of it. Next one we're going to have is, even before swipe left and swipe right, you need to have an image, right? So there's a bunch of things that you can do with an image. The first thing you can do is to load a local image. If you want to load a local image, there is an available widget. Just check the catalog link that I showed. There is something called as an asset image. An asset image is loading from locally. I want to load it from a network image, meaning that I want to load it from a link. If I just give it a URL, it'll automatically load from that. And that's what I'm trying to do. So in order to do that, we can just say network image, or you can also say image.network. It'll automatically pick it from that. Say image.network. It's automatically giving you the method. I'm just going to just do. All right. Now it's actually asking for a URL, and we just need to pass the URL to this, and it will automatically give you guys the data. Next thing we're going to do is to find a simple image. So I actually have found an image for you guys, pretty much right here. Just show you guys. This is the image that I found. All right, so this is the person that I'm trying to show. This is actually an open source image finder, image repository called Spexels. You can find any image from you want from here. I'm just going to try to load this into here. So just open and pass it as a parameter, and pretty much I should have the data in no time. Let me try and run this to see what is happening. I should be able to see my screen or image right here. Awesome. So I'm able to see the image. Amazing. There's left and right here. So instead of text, now I'm just going to try to decorate stuff. Instead of text, I want to put it like, probably I just want to say flat button. I want to create a button. Flat button. Right, so if flat button is deprecated, and I cannot use that flat button. So instead of flat button, I'm going to be finding something useful from the repository. Probably I can find button Flutter. Okay, I have found something called as a raised button or elevated button. Elevated button is something like it's gonna give a look, beautiful look. So in this I've created, now I'm going to be using elevated button, and elevated button actually takes an child, and the child is going to be a text. I'm just going to say swipe left. All right. All right, says that the method name parameter on press is required. So if you're going to be creating a button, it will automatically prompt us to what is required, and it says that you need to have an on press method present. An on press method can be null for now, so just open and close it and just leave it as such. We'll see how that works out. Run it again, you will see your on pressed on the side and button being created. Awesome. So I have a swipe left button. Similarly, I just need to do a swipe right button. Again, take this one out, copy it and put it down below. Swipe right. And we'll have the swipe left and the swipe right button created. Awesome, right? So we have done both of that. And we also need one more button. I'll just say probably um, swipe right would probably mean that I like that person. Swipe left would mean I don't like this person. So we'll, instead of having a text, we need to say you are matched or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say probably this, or call this as a text. And this text itself is not going to have any child or something like that. And this text is going to be present right here, matched. All right, let's see. Probably it's going to initially say it's matched, but what I'm going to do as we build this, that I'm just going to find out how to, like, write some logic to say you are matched or you're not matched or things like that. All right, for now it says matched, or I'll say okay. All right, so if you see here, everything is like very, very close to each other. So that's actually very useful widget that's actually called a spacer, that actually gives easy way of providing some space. Just say here spacer, the comma, take this spacer here, spacer here, and after this also spacer, and we'll run this. You'll see that it's actually pretty much like moved. It's easy, it's actually spread out, and I have a swipe left, I have swipe right, and I have a match button right here. All right, so next step we're going to do is we're going to write the logic. I want to have multiple images going, and when the user clicks on swipe left, it has to move one before. If the user clicks on swipe right, it has to move one above. And the logic for that is going to be written using the set state method. That's actually a very useful method. That's where your application is going to get fired, and you're going to see everything being created again from scratch. First things first, let's create a list of string. This list of string is to just say what is going to be the data that we want to have. We're going to have a bunch of links that's going to be present, and each link is going to be shown every single time. So we need to have a list of string to save this data up, and I'm just going to put it right here. I'm just going to call it a image links, and we'll have it as a bunch of things. All right, I have this image. First things is I have this image. All right, I want to have another link. I already found another link as well. It's from here, and actually I found another as well. All right, so the image links are present, and I just want to say start with some position. I want to say start with some position. I'm just going to say 0 for now. But I want to every time increment when the user clicks on swipe right, decrement when the user clicks on swipe left. So I'm going to have another variable called as position, which is going to start from 0, but the user can control that data as it goes along, or as the user goes along. All right, so let's continue writing. We have the image present, we have the left and swipe right button present as well. The next step we are going to do is when the user clicks on swipe left, I want to say reduce the position by -1. So just say position is equal to minus equal to 1, meaning that reduce the position by 1. And if you do this, nothing technically will happen. If you just run this again, nothing pretty much will happen, because we have a widget tree that is already created. I'm just clicking swipe left. Swipe left is I'm clicking multiple times, nothing is happening, the images are not moving, but it's still loading the first image that I have. So the primary reason for that is because we have created a tree, and the tree is already created. Once it loads, the build method it loads, it created. If you want to rebuild the method, we need to put it inside a method called a set state. And the set state is pretty much what is going to control your entire item. So if you have a stateful widget created, you definitely see a set state method somewhere inside it, because the user or the developer knows that when I am actually going to be changing the data, which we talked about, dynamically changing data, that's where your set state method comes into picture. So just remove this and put it inside a set state method. This is actually the syntax for that. The set state method will be present inside my on pressed. Sorry. Yeah. Right. All right. So this is going to be the syntax. You're going to say set state, an empty function, and just open close the flower bracket. Set state is created. I'm just going to say position -1. But if you think about it clearly, if the position is 0 and I do a -1 and this whole thing rebuilds, image links of -1 will come, and that's actually an array index exception. So what I'm going to do is only if the position is going to be greater, or it's actually going to be um, if the position is going to be greater than 0, I'll probably do the -1. Yep. Alright, so the position is greater than 0. It should not be even 0. It should be greater than 0. Do the -1. Else, go back to 2. I hope you guys understand this logic. So what I'm saying is, if the position is 1, go to 0. And if the position value becomes 0, just move back to 2. So we'll just try out this logic again here quickly. Did you see that? So what exactly happening is that the set state is getting fired, and the position has become from 0, it has gone to 2. And this 2 is this image right here. Just open this in a new tab, and you can see that the 2's value is this one. This image is actually shown right here. And I'm going to click this again. The new image is loaded. I do understand that the image sizes are changing. You can control it here easily. Again, click it. It keeps going up and down. Again, it's having so much fun doing it. All right, so we have successfully written the logic for swipe left. For the swipe right, I just want to just say probably I'll just say this dot set state. No, I just want to say instead of this matched being printed all the time, I want to have an empty value for this. I'll just probably have a string created. String, call it as success message. We'll initially keep it as null. Go back here, put it here. So initially it's going to be a empty success message, and when the user clicks on swipe right, the user is technically saying that I consider you as a match. So we want to fire up this set state again here. And we're going to say success message is going to be you are matched. All right, let's try it out. Let's try this code out. Click and run this. Hopefully this runs fine. All right, just say swipe left, images are moving. Awesome. When I click swipe right, it says you are matched. Awesome. So we have built the mechanics of an application, which very simple. And what will technically you will do is probably not print this every single time the user clicks on it. And if the user clicks on it, it's matched every time and things like that's happening. So what you want to do is to build few additional logic on top of it to make it look much more smoother. Now I want to add one more important styling tip here. Basically the styling tip is that whenever you are creating a network image or whenever you're trying to store and show an image to the application, you can very well see here that it's actually throwing the spacing off. When I go for especially this one, it's throwing the spacing off. In order to avoid doing that, control the size of your image. In order to, you can easily do that by passing the width attribute. The width attribute has to be a float, so I'm just going to say 300. And the height attribute, this is again going to be 300. And we are done. Control this and you'll obviously be having a ball of fun. See, the images are not going to be moving. It's within that framework only. It's within that 300 to 300 height only. And it actually makes your application look really smooth. I just click here, you are matched. You can even control the styling for a text by passing the attribute style. You can control the style here. Style is going to be, you have to know about a class called as text style. I just zoom it so that you guys can see it. Text style. And you can just say the font weight, you can say, I guess font weight is going to be font weight dot bold, just for the sake of showing you guys how this entire thing works. So style it, run it, expects, oh, we forgot a semicolon, forgot a comma. The attributes are going to be separated by commas. That's what you got to remember. Just run it. And let me just choose probably this person. I want to just right. This is actually now the attribute styling has changed. You can control things like color, you can control the font size, you can control the font type, and things like that can also be controlled. And similarly, the styling is very easy. Everything is an attribute and everything has a value, and that's how you're going to be constructing a tree. And at the end of the day, you have your application to the right. You can do the same item or the same stuff again in your local host as well, or local IDE as well, and you can build an application as well. Right. Let's see what is in comments present here. Gabriel ILO. Hello Gabriel, how's it going? All right, so let's build. We actually built the Tinder itself. We have actually continuously, like, we have started with nothing but scratch and built the Tinder application, and we just actually seen how this entire thing is getting constructed. And I'm just going to give it for another couple of minutes for everybody who is actually was present in this live stream to have or answer any questions. And I'll be very happy to answer any more number of your questions if you have any. And I also want to like reiterate on this point very much. This is going to be like your basics. This is how you're going to be understanding about your creation of trees. And what you can do next is obviously expand on this application, write your own logic, and you can also be able to, you will also be able to build a lot more complex stuff with your Flutter as a framework. Important point again to note here is that Flutter is a cross-platform toolkit. You write code once, it's going to run everywhere. And that's actually pretty much what is actually becoming much famous in the